Hello, and welcome to week 4. I hope you all had a productive third week of the semester. We didn't meet face to face, but we did carry on virtual mandatory meetings, and I believe that we helped a lot of you get started. Your research question paper is due on the 14th, and I believe in all but one or two cases we had approved topics for you to be writing on. You should already be looking ahead a little bit to the literature review, and when you see an article, you should be looking at its reference section to see if there's some other articles that are closely related that might help you on your path of first developing a good literature review, but also starting to create a theoretical basis for what your hypothesis is going to be on your paper. If you look through the slides, you're going to see that one of the slides it's a little less professionally done, I suppose. I was in a bit of a hurry, but I noticed that I'd been talking a bit about the idea of construct validity, and I was concerned that maybe we wouldn't understand exactly what was meant. So I created a slide 12, where it looks a little bit like, like the most horrible house that you've ever seen constructed. And I hope that when you look at it, you will be able to make sense of it. But in essence, what we're saying is that we are starting with our theory, but we are constructing relationships. We are causing us to understand the meaning of the different concepts and how they relate to each other. It's not that we are making the argument just that one measure is related to one concept. Instead, we're making the argument that all of the different measures are related to their underlying concepts and that those derive from theory. So in a sense, even though theory kind of acts as like the roof of the house in my illustration, it's really the thing that undergirds everything else. It looks a little bit, if you have the desire to reconceptualize it, we're just really exploding that section of the wheel of science where we're moving from theory to hypothesis and then down to observation. We're giving that more detail. So in any case, I think that's an important thing. I think it's very important that you go through the slide presentation. The voiceover is a little longer this week. Remember, though, that we're going to return to face-to-face class sessions. So, if you're watching this on the 7th, and so we'll go back to that for a couple weeks because there's some important concepts that we need to talk about, and hopefully I get some questions that I can answer that will give me an idea of what's on your mind and what your concerns are. What's on my mind and what my concern is that as we transition from looking for a topic to write about to having a topic, but actually trying to figure out how we believe our cause leads to our effect, that we'll get lost in the search for friendly faces. We need to follow the research where it takes us. So if we started with an article that talked about a relationship, you do not have to agree with the article that you chose first. But you really need to find others who agree with you, other papers that agree with you, and you need to capture a sense of where the literature is right now. If you have a minority viewpoint, which is to say a viewpoint that's not held by most social scientists, then that's okay. But you also need to illustrate both your viewpoint and the viewpoint that's held by most of the field. And then you will compare and contrast that in your literature review. There's really about 3 different kinds of literature reviews that can be written. If it's your goal to support the dominant theory related to your field through your hypothesis, then you're going to show what other people have said, and you aren't really looking for a great deal of innovation, but you're looking for support, and you're looking to show that the literature to this point supports what you are believing, and that you are going to do research which is going to extend and provide support for the prevailing wisdom. It's also possible that you're going to disagree with the prevailing wisdom. That doesn't give you the excuse to ignore what that wisdom is. This is a literature review, which is to say you are actually looking at what the literature says. So some of your literature review should talk about what other people have said that you disagree with. But you are going to also need to find a minimum of support for your point of view, for the minority report, so to speak. Then, when you're writing your method section, you're going to compare those two, and you're going to discover which is the strongest. But you should lay out both. Now, a third, and probably even tougher type of literature review is when you seek to bridge a gap in the literature, where there's literature that says one thing and literature that says another, and you notice some point at which you could synthesize that debate and show that they both tell a compelling story, but an incomplete story. And in which case, again, you'll need to present both sides, but you'll also need to show the way that your synthesis will provide additional understanding. So really, any of the 3 approaches doesn't excuse a ignorance of what others are saying, what other published political science papers claim. Instead, what you're hoping to do is you're hoping to show one side, then the other side, and present a paper that is going to support the point of view that you have. If you are the only person who believes a certain point of view on a issue where there's been articles published in political science, then you need to take a step back. You actually need to take a step back to the last place where you can agree with a perspective, where you could agree with some other published literature. And at that point, where you have some support, that's where you're going to need to build your paper. Your paper is going to need to say, people say this, and they're on my side. I am going to extend into a new area where there's not a great deal of support, but you need to show me where somebody agrees with you at some point in time. If you're trying to make the argument that there is no such color as blue, well, you're going to be fighting a lot of people, right? You're going to be arguing with the people who believe in the color wheel. You're also going to be arguing with the people who operate printers. You're going to be arguing with the people who have good eyesight and have always been taught that the colors that they see are blue. However, if you could find some support somewhere for the idea that colors are socially constructed, well, that's many steps back from showing that there's not actually blue. But maybe you can write a great paper on the social construction of colors, or in the color wheel, Roy G. Biv, Incomplete Understanding by Carl Snook. Well, anyway, I kid a bit. What I'm really hoping that you're going to do, and what I'm really hoping that you're going to use to build on, is that you're going to find a theory that has some support, and you're going to find a hypothesis that has been suggested before, and then you're going to have an innovation on top of it. You're going to say, it hasn't been looked at for a particular issue, and now I'm going to do it. Or it hasn't been tested for a particular country or a particular time, and now I'm going to do it. If you utilize this week correctly, you need to spend at least some time thinking about your research question, and the assignment is to have one by September 11th. You need to have an approved topic. Now, to my knowledge, everybody I've spoken to so far does have an approved topic. Now, you'll be able to get 10 out of 10 probably without writing the most spectacular of research question papers. And I don't want you to spend your time trying to write a paper that covers up problems that you're having. Rather, it would be much better for me to know about the problems that you're having now when it's easy to help. And you're not going to lose points for admitting a deficiency. Where you'll lose points is, one, if you don't follow the directions. Two, if you write a paper that's less than the requested amount. Or if you were to, well, the main way people will lose points will be to either not do it late, or not write long enough. But engage the question as best as you can. I suppose if somebody were to have an approved topic and they were to write about something that was entirely unrelated to their approved topic, that would be an example of something that could get them in a bit of trouble. Once you have finished, if you have some time left at the end of the week, what I think you should do is you should start trying to build a bibliography. First of all, you have that one article. But beyond that, start to find other articles that you think are related. You have a couple weeks, you have a while before you actually need the literature review in. But it's definitely the type of assignment where doing the research at a time other than the night before the papers due is very good. If you're still finding articles the night before papers due, well, that worked for you all. You're in college now because you're faster, and you're a faster worker, you're a harder worker, you're a smarter worker, and you're probably a smarter person than a lot of the people who fell by the wayside. But you reach a point, and you never know until it's too late, where you're not able to quickly throw together an assignment and get it completed without any trouble, that you just dash off an assignment at the last second and everybody's impressed. Well, that got you an A in 8th grade, and it got you an A in 10th grade, and it got you an A in 12th grade. In fact, it probably was compatible with you getting an A your first semester or two here at Kennesaw State. But I think that we need to prepare us all, because what's coming up ahead, when you're a junior and you're a senior and you're taking 3,000 and 4,000 level classes, are some very challenging papers. And, let's have that little intermediate step here where we start to learn to prepare before it's time to write, where we have everything that we need and we have an outline of what we want to write, and we have a very good idea of how the paper is going to end before we even begin it. If there's one thing that I have a great deal of expertise in after teaching in the university system of Georgia since 2009, is telling the difference between a paper that I'm seeing the first draft, and the paper where I'm seeing the third or fourth draft. Well, anyway, I hope you have a productive week. A lot of work to do if you choose to do it, and at least a fair amount of work to do if you just want to get by. And we will. Thanks, and I'll talk to you again soon.